before we move on to the guts of the meeting here today, I'd like to thank Cheryl for her dedication to, both learning the job from Elizabeth and doing you did the same thing that Elizabeth did. You would remind me, and I love that. Call me up, I'm 10 minutes late, but anyway, she's been a pleasure, and today is her last meeting, and I just wanted to wish her the best of luck. Now I think she'll probably be doing our minutes, but that should be the last thing you need to do. Oh, okay, until January 1st?
Stand by. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, thanks. And Pam, I really appreciate you stepping up for that. Really do.
Well, let's wait a couple months.
To be
see if you say
determined.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, I thought I'd want to say something now rather than wait till the end of the meeting, because,
Thank you. And Pam will be great.
yeah.
I want to thank her too. She helped us a lot too. Keeps us three in line, tries to anyway.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, let's move on. Approval of the meeting minutes from November 9th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 9th of 2022.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer's report.
All right, I'll review the November financial statement. We had a beginning balance of checking is $77,055. Expenses is $7,566. Revenue of $4,704 for an ending balance $74,193. Our investment funds finally went up after a bad few months. So our total assets are $517,388. Expenses were down significantly because we had road repairs hit last year in November. And then legal fees did go up this year by $4,000. Revenue was up because of the Holcim variance and the cemetery donations that we took in. So looking at the bottom, we've overspent by 6,500, and after tonight, it'll be by about 37,000 for the year. And we'll have taken in a little bit more than we budgeted for. So nothing too alarming there. Then at the end of the year, I will move this unallocated so that general purpose is not showing a negative balance. See that on the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Just a couple other things. I got a credit card on the way for Pam. And I'm actually gonna be physically leaving the township end of the month. So I can serve out the rest of my term. And then after that,
You're gone.
I think you're gonna have to find someone else after that.
Yeah.
So just
So how long is your term then? How much time we got?
2 years.
Oh, okay.
Cheryl, you want to be, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Second it. Motion been made and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Time to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion. We pay November's bills of $30,916.88.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions?
None for me.
I don't have any either.
Okay, all in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Reports of committees, meetings, and events. Planning Commission report.
Good afternoon, Eduardo Valencia, 5735 Pioneer. With the report from the Planning Commission, we had a couple of supervisors at the meeting, so you guys keep me honest if I missed anything. We had, I think, an interesting agenda. Proceeded with minute approval, didn't bring the minutes for you because they haven't been through the approval next month, but nothing to note. We didn't have any minor permits to approve. We've got a section in the agenda for kind of daily type of or monthly type of activity. And then the beef of our time, the bulk of our time was actually spent on discussion surrounding the revised administrative permit that Holcim has supplied. And we had some discussion in the group that we would like to request for your consideration the approval of a contractor that we have worked with in the past, SHC, to help us review the documentation that has been provided, make sure that we can have any of the recommendations that they have available to us in order to give you advice, make sure that they can update the timeline section of the last report, make sure that they can have any recommendations, mitigated strategies, and options for us to consider. We had quite a bit of discussion with the mining representatives on whether or not that was necessary. We thought that as a new planning commission, we wanted to be informed fully of all the intricacies of the permit renewal and all the dynamic activity between the different, both the permit that they've got in front of us and the amended or updated CUP, and then all the other actions that may maybe happen with the EAW. I printed for your review, I sent it in an email ahead of time, but let me pass it on right now.
Thank you.
This is it's just the ask. I sent an email ahead of time, and I just wanted to kind of enter it for the record, that it's not an open-ended excursion to try to hire somebody to do quote-unquote whatever and advice, but those would be the points that we would, with your support, advance to the clerk in order to engage this consulting company, SHC or similar. It doesn't necessarily need to be them, but they've got a lot of background. They would probably can do this relatively quickly in order to really review the documentation we've got, update the timelines that they've done up until now, make sure that we can make I'm going to say an educated advice in the context of all of this activity taking place before we just tell you yes or no, we're recommending or not recommending for the permit and the PUC to move forward. Let me know if there's any questions on that. I can probably continue on the agenda, but that was a significant portion of the discussion. This is just for particularly for the supervisors that were there. This is an outline. It's not set in stone. If you want to change it, if you want to modify it, if you want to include or amend it in any way, completely open to it. But that's what we moved, and that's what we suggested that we would put in front of you for a decision, and then we can authorize the clerk and the new clerk to do the engagement with the consulting company.
Well, I was a little taken aback with SHC, with how they would treat us different than they would treat the aggregate. And they would need to be appraised of the last few big things that happened with aggregate was, the sticking to the 500-foot setback. And, from the county road, from the property lines on Ted's. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
So I was a little taken aback at SHC's attitude with being different with the township board and the aggregate industries. It seemed to me that I mean, they just seem to favor aggregate considerably more than us. I know they don't know about the recent things that have happened with aggregate, the setbacks to Ted's property, the setback to Moore's property, the setback to the berms, all that kind of stuff. They would need to be appraised of that, and I don't know. Do you want to do that, or you don't want me to do that?
Yeah, I think, so I'm not privy, I mean, I don't know about any kind of favoritism. I'm also not advocating that we hire them. I'm advocating that in order to move the permit forward, in the context of also an amended PUC, and in the context of EAW that we think has been filed with the county, may or may not be, that we seek advice. And that we seek advice that's similar to the advice that they provided last time, which I thought, at least, I don't think I've ever talked to them directly, but I can read the reports they generated. And it seemed to be well organized, it seemed to be logical, it seemed to take many, I'm gonna call it expertise into consideration. They advised us, I just reread it today before coming here, and they advised us on something like simple as, you don't approve a POC, you review a PUC, and you provide feedback to the county, but you do have a permitting process every year, which you've never done. And this is what you do in your permitting process, and this is the limitations that you can impose, and this is how you can put conditions on it. And the conditions are binding, and the county's gonna listen to you to do that. I, as a planning commission, relatively a new planning commission member, and really as a resident, I like what it seemed to be an expert review of all that we have done up to the 2020-25 CUP renewal. And I found a lot of value in that review in order to really guide our next set of steps. The planning commission, and this is not Eduardo's perspective, this is what we voted on and we moved in front of you, is that we seek that type of an advice. We think that advice is necessary in order to not make a mistake and make sure that we're not going to be misguided on the next step. And we do need to, and I think is one of the points, clarify to them that since the last engagement, you had a couple of resolutions, we have had updated documentation, we have a revised CUP, we have had 2 years of permits with conditions. Have those conditions been followed? So what we're asking for is for support to gain access to experts that can do the review and an update of where we're at in order to really do our job.
Well, I don't have any problem with SHC doing the permits, not at all. It's the things that are out of context that bother me, but you know, things have changed here. You know, I mean, we have a crowd here, we had a crowd at the other meeting, you know, that was, I don't know, 4 months ago. I don't remember when. But I think doing the permits is fine.
Yeah, and just, I know you know this, but that's what's on our plate, to review and provide you with advice on what to do, and then that is what we're seeking support to have professional expertise review where we're at, where we've been, where we're going. So the permits are well guided. It's not based on my understanding of things or my opinion of things or my perspective on it. That was really centered around a lot of the discussion. We didn't hear a lot of support from the mining representatives to go that route. They actually supported, and it's in the minutes that we would consult our lawyer, our attorney. That may be also in the works. All I'm saying is that we don't have a position on the permit that's in front of us and on the CUP that's in front of us, because we do have a feedback role with the county. And that we would like to, in this case, engage them because of the context they've got, and we think that they can move relatively quickly, because we don't want this dragging on forever.
Eduardo, do they have the same consultants on staff that worked on this 2 years ago?
I don't. I have not
Okay.
contacted them. I don't know them from Adam. You can,
That would just reduce time to get someone up to speed.
Yeah.
And do we have a ballpark estimate how many hours we're talking?
no, that would be the next step. If we have your support, and on that I can commit to either work with Cheryl or with the new clerk to engage the company and try to get a firm quote ahead of time. I think that any of the reasonable review costs associated with it is part of the permit itself. But our intention is not to drag this on, it is not to delay it, it is not to run a bill. Our intention is just to educate ourselves in a way that we can give you input that is based on fact and on true knowledge of how these things work, not necessarily on our perspective.
I got one. So I think it might be important just to get everybody that's here up to speed a little bit. What we have in front of us is we have two separate things. We really don't have the 5-year CUP application in front of us right now. Currently, what we're working on is the annual mining permit. It is not a variance. This is what was applied just to kind of give the scope of work for where aggregate is moving this year inside of what has been boundaries that have been set in place before. So that's kind of what, that's on new business. So that, we haven't had any discussion on that, we haven't done that. But just so people know, there's two separate things going on. Aggregate is not applied for variance or anything. But the 5 years kind of a separate thing, so I think we should focus on the permit, but. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I think that is accurate, and I apologize if I'm mixing the concepts. We did discuss it, and that's why the report is inclusive of that discussion. I do think my understanding of it, or at least the document that I've seen, is that updated CUP has been filed, and that the county has sent it to us. I get that on the agenda is later on, but in the context of Monday, which is a couple of days ago, we discussed it because as far as we know, it is a planning commission role to review as well and give feedback.
Well, I don't have any problem with, I mean, it's once a year and then once every 5 years. I mean, it's not gonna be that much money. Is that something we would,
Should we discuss all that later, or no, or what we have all that discussion now?
the permits?
Just this whole thing? Is that
Oh, well,
planning,
this-
or- 'cause when are you gonna hear from people or any of that?
So, you know,
Oh,
what-
we're just talking about the permits.
Yeah, alright. Yeah, I just think we're into the reports, but I'll bring on to it.
you think it's possible to do this? Okay, we can't approve the administrative permit because we don't have it drawn up. We have the application, but after talking to Cheryl, she wrote up the last one. She actually did the typing on it. We got the format from SHC, right, Cheryl? And then you filled in all the blanks?
Correct, but if you gave me the criteria or the requirements that you wanted put on it and voted on, you could vote on that tonight, and then I would draft it, run it by you. And if it was what you had requested, if you agreed that it was what you requested, then we could issue it.
Okay, or,
You have something here?
Sure,
You know, on your agenda, he's just merely giving a report right now.
right,
Our permit is not until, you get to your unfinished business.
I agree, yeah.
After your plan, you finish this number 6 here, and then you get to unfinished business. which is
Right.
just-
That is correct.
You'll be available for questions then, right?
I'm not going anywhere. But if I can continue, because I think that is correct, because this is about a report. But I just want to make sure that I'm making something clear. The report that I'm giving you is that we discussed this, that we voted on it, and that we're asking for that review in the process that we've established on how we get these things approved. So if you decide to not follow that advice, I just want you to know that that's not what we're suggesting you. So for the record. We then transitioned to the discussion of some proposed ordinance updates. We talked quite a bit about noise. We have, as a planning commission, we would like to amend our ordinances with the reference, that's not in there, with the references to the Minnesota pollution control language. We had a lot of debate with input to say that that is not specific enough and that we should be more prescriptive to it, and decided that that is not necessarily where we want to go at this point, and that is the report that we're giving to you. I think that may come up in discussion later on as well. We also took a look at some building permit timeline language, which we amended from last time. This is language designed to make sure that structures don't go unfinished, and I think we agreed that that is just gonna get queued up with all the other ordinance amendments that we have, but it was agreed that that language seemed reasonable. It basically gives folks about a year to finish the outside of a structure without permanently abandoning projects. And then under old business, we did not discuss any of the items that we've got in the queue up. Just a reminder that the Mississippi River corridor critical area still being navigated, I think, by TKDA, and it's in debate, I think, with the DNR at this point.
I
And that-
checked with them yesterday, and I checked with TKDA. They were gonna reach out to the DNR. I have not heard back
I
yet.
have not heard back. Got it. And that's it. That's planning commission report. Thank you.
Okay, Eduardo, the thing about permits, you know, home permits, about that time frame,
Mhm.
it's spelled out in the building code pretty clearly. And it's 180 days past the last inspection or the last work done. So 180 days after that, then the permit, we should have letters to go out, but, you know, so
Okay.
we have to track that. You know, your permit is going to expire, you know, those kind of things, all the cities have. So I can look into what Woodbury uses.
Yeah, so the background on that, and again, there's no action for you to take, we just had that discussion, is that when we consulted with, and Cheryl's gonna have to help me with the new inspector, I believe, or the permit. There you go. And we brought up the issue of what can we do as a community to have some ability to go back on unfinished projects. They suggested certain language for the ordinance. We took a look at it. It was not clear enough. We cleaned it up a little bit, and that is it's right now on the sideline until we would incorporate it. Maybe the permitting process has the same language or very similar language, but right now we just wanted to find ways by which we can have an enforcement ability to tell people to finish the things they start. Really.
Yeah, it's actually 180 days after work has stopped.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't have it committed to memory, so I don't recall, but it was basically 180 days to begin with, and then an extension of up to another 180 if necessary, to a total of 1 year.
So I can,
And we've got the language, we can, at the time that we actually wanna put it into the ordinance, you're gonna see it and there's gonna be a hearing about it. All
well,
right,
I think, starting January 1st, when the new inspection company, they would have all that too.
yeah, they would, they, just looking at Cheryl to see if I understood it correctly, but they suggested that we would have language like that in our ordinance as well.
Oh, they did,
Yes.
okay.
Anything else? Until later.
No, it's,
All right.
no.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The next planning commission meeting, Monday, January 9th at 6:30 PM. The next town board meeting Wednesday, January 11th at 7 p.m. Any other meetings, anything with the cemetery or anything like that? Mowing is done. I imagine.
Pam and I met with Minspect yesterday,
Oh, good.
about them taking over building inspections. So we will have to come up with a building permit application again. One or two, we might go back to short form and long form. I gave them what we used to use before Cottage Grove, and they're gonna review it and send something back to us.
Okay. Thanks for doing that. Both of you. All right, on to unfinished business. Holcim mining permit for Larson Quarry.
Back to where we started from.
Yeah. You wanna come up?
All right, so we sent this to Cheryl. It's our.
Why don't you turn that on and use it? Nobody, you gotta push the button on the top of it?
It's on.
Is it on now?
Just gotta stand real close.
Real close?
Yeah.
How's that?
Better, thank you.
I can't even tell.
Just for
The
him.
difference,
Yeah.
that's too tall for me. Anyways, so this was submitted to you folks, I can't remember how many weeks ago, planning commission reviewed it. We did briefly talk about it at last month's meeting, I believe. The three of you agreed that we should take out the reclamation language out of the narrative, which we did. I think the biggest question that is in play is that we have mined the upper bench in all the areas that we outline as where we wanna do mining next year. We've taken the upper bench out. We wanna go back and get the lower bench. And that is where some of the question is coming into play, because yes, when we took out the upper bench, we were able to mine the 200 feet within the road setback. We didn't have the fine, you had it in your ordinance that we could mine within 200 feet of the road right away. That is what we did. That was again the upper bench. We wanna go back and take the lower bench. The areas have all been previously mined before.
So interesting.
So just so everyone else is clear, that's the pit that you see out there that is there, there's no more land disturbance outside of the pit that's there. It's just going deeper in areas that have been previously mined is what they're saying.
That is correct, that's correct, yeah, yep. It's just within the mining that's already there, nothing new would be opened up, it's just going back and getting that lower bench.
I got a little off-topic question, but Tom Schmidt was gonna look into this building, the time frame, cause we're coming up with,
No, yeah, and I think that that's a little bit later on your agenda.
Yeah.
Perhaps,
is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, the map Patty's
Yeah.
holding is on the screen, just so you guys, for reference. So that's the existing pit, and the red marked areas are the areas that their annual permits to go down a level.
We're anticipating mining next year, well, you know, we'll jump from phase to phase.
She's got
We've
town-
already
that's right.
taken the upper bench.
That's right, yeah, but I
We
think
wanna
that's-
go back and take
I
lower
forwarded my
bench.
town hall on there to talk
We're not gonna expand any
Oh, okay.
limits, everything's already been opened up.
But some of that is still within the 200 feet, or 500 feet.
Yes, it is, but when we were allowed to take that upper bench, the ordinance allowed us to go within 200 feet. That was the past. It was the past, but you know, now, so we've never had to get permission to go. We've always been, it's been the area that we seek permission in, not the benches. I mean, it's logical that we would go back and get that lower bench. of an area that we've already taken the upper edge.
So here's some things, oh, here we go. Here's some things, cause I've listened to the planning commission and understood kind of where they're coming from. Some of the digging that I've done, going back to the 2016, 2020, cause obviously all these areas have been mined for years, long before this was the town board. We didn't approve any topsoil disturbance for any of that stuff, but going back into the previous, CUPs and stuff, and maybe Eduardo or the planning commission has found some of this stuff, but under, operations, plans, you know, when Aggregate applied for this stuff and put these maps together, they have, written in here for final floor elevations of mining to be 635 feet. They have, you know, to 35 to 40 foot above the Jordan sandstone is what the final thing is. So some of the things I find interesting, because our options kind of as a township are to seek maybe legal advice is what it would be more than anything on if we feel we have a right to go back to something they may or may not have already had a right to mine. And in my opinion, buying only like an SHC or something wouldn't really help with that because it boils into a legal thing. So go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, if I can comment on that, and again, I just wanna make sure that's on the record. If I can comment on that, they explicitly talked about that issue in their report. They explicitly talked about the difference between the extraction area, which is the edge, and
Yep.
how much within that extraction area they can actually mine. One thing is the boundary, one
Yep.
thing is what can you do within the boundary, and they had it at the bottom of page 4, and I can read it.
I know, I'm
necessary.
familiar with that.
Yeah, as previously noted, the mining boundary, I can't see this thing, is assumed to represent the maximum extent of the extraction area, but does not unilaterally approve extraction of all the areas inside of that area, since reasonable mitigation strategies may constitute an increased setback area within it. That's what they put on the report, and you know, I don't know if they're right or not, but that's the expertise they bring to the table. So I don't think that anybody's questioning whether or not the edge is in question. It's what you can do to comply with additional regulation within that edge. And I think we need, once again, I'm just making the plea, somebody that's got the expertise in the context of the setback, variant request denials you've got to say, can we impose a 500 within that or can we not? And if we can, do we want to? Because you may not want to and say, you know, that doesn't make any sense, but what can we get back from mining in concessions, in other approvals and whatever it may be. So just want to note that.
So, yeah, I'll respond. And so I'm not saying one way or another, and I'm all for getting somebody else involved if we want. What my question or my alarming or situation is, like, a previous town board, when I look at this, what's in play is that, to me, with these documents, how it reads, they almost have it written to read that Aggregate has the right to mine down to, 635 feet per their 2016 plan, and whether or not that would hold up or not. That's what, and seeking SHC or something, I don't necessarily believe they're a legal firm to do it. I think they could help us draft something or do something, but I'm just bringing up, when I look at this on going deeper in the pit, I tried to find I had questions on, is there anywhere that somebody said you can only mine 50 feet or can't you? Or trying to look back at the history and digging through the permits. That's what I found, is that there are elevations and stuff in the plans, but that's not weighing one way or another how I feel or how the direction we want to go. I'm just bringing that to the attention of what I found. So, and yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know either. And that hence the request to seek advice, clarify perhaps what it means, the difference between the boundary and the conditions that you can put on mining, and whether or not, once again, we may not want to because it makes no sense to us, but we may want to negotiate for that. And yes, perhaps they're not a legal firm, but we're not the only mining operation in the county. There's many others. people come into these kind of things probably left and right, what's the record on it? And to what extent can we benefit from the analysis? And that's the point, that we don't know what we don't know and that we should find out.
So if I can speak, to Dan's point, HIC, they're not gonna give you, they will in no way, shape, or form tell you this is what you should do. They will strictly look, they have already reviewed all of your CUPs that have been issued up until 2020, which they helped you draft that, then administrative permit. They told you in 2020, you guys should not be issuing CUPs, you should be issuing administrative annual permits. They drafted that first one for you. You folks drafted the following two for 2021, 2022. You put conditions in it that were very similar to the original draft that SHC helped you with. Now here we are again, you've approved all these mining boundaries. We're, again, not opening up any new property, we're merely going for that lower bench. I don't think SHC is gonna offer you guidance. I would say that you need your attorney to weigh in, review our application here and give you guidance on, do we let them, they were able to get the upper bench because of the variance, or not because of the variance, excuse me, I don't wanna use that word in this room, because of the ordinance at the time. Now we wanna go back and get that lower bench. Do we say no to them, or do we logically get that lower bench of material?
Yeah, and once again, the key distinction, this is just again a perspective, the key distinction is when we drafted 21 and 22 permits, we got a variance request in flight. And actually, they were referenced in both of the conditions for them. The variance request has been settled. So, and it's not granted, which means you have said, thou shalt not come closer to that. And now we've got a permit in front of you that is coming closer to it, based on historical. Is that something that we need to look into? Or can you say, yep, your extraction area, again, it's in the report, black and white. The extraction area has been defined, yes, but honor the 500 setback. Maybe framing the question, they'll say, yeah, you got the ability to do that.
So I wanna go to that, man.
And I really
Eduardo,
use the word
you got one sec?
grandfather here when
Sure.
I talk about this lower
So,
bench.
and
Grandfather isn't in the ordinance.
correct
Never
me if
seen
I'm
that
wrong, but
ordinance.
here's kind of where we're at the standstill, is that this section right here is 200 feet from the county road, and our ordinance now calls for 500 feet. So what we're talking about right now is this little square right here is within 500 feet, and this little chunk right here is what would be, so maybe a thing would be, are we thinking that we would have to have aggregate apply for a variance if they wanted to hit this little chunk and this little chunk? Cause these are outside the 500-foot setback. This is all outside the 500-foot setback. So when we look at this is the areas that we're talking and trying to get into deeper depth and dive into, right?
That's my understanding with the reading that I've done on it. Do you want them to go through a variance process? That's your call. Do you want to issue a permit that says you can't mine that area because it's within the setback? That's your call. Do you want to issue a permit that says, hey, we're letting you mine within that area, but this is the trade-off that we would like to negotiate for? I don't know, that you've got a ability to include that in your permit conditions request, and that is, at least from the planning commission perspective, what we would like to validate. Given the fact that the variance requests are in, they both have been denied, and I don't want to overcomplicate it, I'm sorry for the audience, but aggregate, or in this case, Holcim, is recognizing that 500 setback in the 2021-25 CUP. Because when you combine the two documents and you see the new extraction area, they're 500 feet from the road. They're not here, they're here, because it's a new zone. So I think but my point is, look into it. Don't just move and say, well, this is what we think, and it's been done in the past, and it's been grandfathered in, and the rules were ABC back then. With what I've read from the report that says, yeah, maximum area, but you can set conditions within it, and with the action that you've taken on the denying the variance requests, I think you should look into it. Perhaps, she may be completely right, and maybe this is a legal issue, but I just haven't seen the clarity from our attorney, who's not here, but have not seen that clarity in writing in the way that I've seen it in that report in black and white.
Just a little update for some of the people. You're probably wondering, how did they get to mine within 200 feet of the road north of here in the first place? Well, what it says in the ordinance is north of the town hall, I should read it directly, but north of the town hall, they could mine within 200 feet of the road, but the property across the street, which would be east of 75, had to be in the CE overlay district. Well, everybody assumed that it was. You know, the town board aggregate everybody. Well, when they applied for a couple of variances to go farther north, closer to Ted Reese's house and Jeff's house up there, when we started looking at it, the property across the street, east of 75, is not in the commercial CE overlay district. Okay, never has been. Okay, so the two variances they put in got denied because of that fact. So now we're sitting here looking at, you know, in my opinion, we could probably force them to apply for a variance to mine there, because yes, they are mining within 500 feet of the road, which is not legal according to our ordinance. So now when we look at that variance, we gotta have reasons to approve or deny. Okay, well, you know, a person could go either way on that, and it'd probably be easier to approve it because you've already approved them. That footprint that's there has been approved over the years. In fact, it was approved by us last year and the year before, you know, along with their annual permit, and it was approved way before that by previous town boards. So, I mean, so that's where we sit on the thing. My bigger concern on this is they're requesting to mine across the street on the east side of 75. What? Not in this application.
That has nothing to do with this, yeah, those are
We shouldn't
very.
even
Don't try and tell me what I can and can't
No, I
say.
know, but, I mean, respectfully speaking here, we're talking about an annual permit, we're not talking about the future. We were specifically asked to just put what we want to mine in 2023, so I just would respectfully, I think it confuses the audience when we jump from the annual permit to the 5-year renewal with the county to a potential EAW.
I think this helps explain to the residents what's happening. So my biggest
I
concern
think
is,
if we're relying on the past a lot to talk about what's grandfathered in, I think a conversation about the future is just as relevant.
so here's an idea for me. I got a couple of things I'd like to add into their 2023 administrative permit. And Cheryl has to type up the permit, and I'm not comfortable voting for the permit till I actually see the permit. I've seen that happen before where, well, we'll approve it pending this and this and this. Well, then when the thing actually comes out, it's, well, not really what we approved. So I would like to, well, here, see what you guys think of these two things. Here, give that to Dan. This is nothing that's gonna bother them too bad. Well, what I was gonna say is I'd like to add these into their permit, figure out what we're gonna do, have Cheryl type it up, get it back to us, have us proofread it. If we want, we can send it to the attorney, which was suggested by Patty, have him look at it, and then vote on the thing at our January meeting. And where I was going with the other part is I'd like to get SHC involved. They can even look at this if we want during the next month that we would have in that. And then I really want somebody involved in the future. That's where this came in tied to this for what's going on across the street. Because applications have been made to mine over there. Well, and here's what I put in there. Here, I just, guys put, because there's been biggest complaint about that outfit is blasting and shaking their houses. And I put in there, Holcim shall at their expense shall conduct blasting, seismograph testing, and recordings during all blasting, which they do already anyway. Testing shall be done by a third-party independent testing company, not Holcim Incorporated, which they do already. This is the part. The reports from all seismograph testing locations shall be forwarded by the third-party testing company to the Great Cloud Island Township Clerk within 14 calendar days of the blast. And then, this part, we've heard of complaints going to Holcim, you hear this, you hear that. I put in, any complaints from township residents received by Holcim related to the Larson Quarry mining operation shall be forwarded to the Great Cloud Island Township Clerk within 14 calendar days of the complaint. That way we know, otherwise we hear half stories, half this, well, I called and they didn't do anything, or I didn't call, or that kind of gets rid of confusion there. I don't know, what do you guys think of that?
Spell check.
Oh.
Well, I think to meet the advice of our planning commission, I'd like to hear from people here too, if they have anything they want to add to input of aggregate going deeper, in that 200 to 5 foot range versus that stuff. But I think what I feel like we'd have to do is have, SHC, I think we'd have to have a game plan of what we want to get from them, like as far as, is that what we're looking at, and having them draft is not letting them be able to do that? Or what is our goal with the annual permit? I can see the need and the use and the value out of the 5-year CUP, but I think we really would need to figure out as a community like what we want to see, because they'll draft anything we want to draft. They'll help with language on the permit, and if we want to have them write the permit, that's great. But I think we have to have a understanding of the direction that we feel as a community that we would want to go, so we're not just wasting a bunch of hours.
I think we need to speak with our attorney first.
One thing to keep in mind too, how we ended up with SHC last time and planners, our attorney sent us to them. We didn't go there and then go to the attorney. Our attorney suggested we use them. Because our attorneys thought it was better we use a professional planner versus him. He knows the legal part, but the planning for mining and that he referred us to them.
And a lot of
That's how we got there.
A lot of that was based off just the lack of transparency over the years and all the stuff that was going on. When we all took place, we wanted to figure out a way to get, more involvement and transparency so people knew what was going on. And then, like Eduardo said, all the legal meanings, the different stuff, we had no clue with any of that stuff. So, I've seen a huge value of bringing them on and helping get the permit process. I didn't quite see the annual permit stuff, but I can, if we want to go that route, I have no issue going that route. I don't know if you hear from
they
anyone.
did bring up information. They brought up stuff we were unaware of. They got us straightened out. They told us stuff, and it is possible they could do that again. Maybe not. So what I'd like to do is, if you guys want to throw this into their thing, have Cheryl draft the 2023 administrative permit with these changes, and what she's got to do is take the 2022 one and change it to all the information, all the stuff in it, the names, dates, all that good stuff, add anything else we want to it, and then we got to vote on it.
But Dick, why? Why do you want to take a shot at something that?
Well,
you're
let
not
me finish.
fully
Well,
informed on? It's beyond comprehension. You're just coming up with edits to a permit, recognizing that we learned a lot from hiring an expert that can tell us, okay, you have these options. You got the option of forcing a variance. You got the option of blocking the extraction. You got the option of negotiating a feedback. You got all these options. Pick the one you want and put it on the permit. Why don't we bypass seeking advice and put whatever you came up with into the permit itself? I just.
no, in this next month, I would suggest we send that thing to our attorney and SHC. During that time period, we send it to both them parties and get their feedback and come back in January.
I feel like what I hear, what I take in though is like completely different versus us, taking a shot in the dark is I feel like the planning commission's looking to try and sit down and have a chance with them with this map to ask questions and ask different things and see what they can or cannot put on the permit, is what I feel like you guys are asking for.
What we're asking for is to for permission, and again, the permit process has the permit requester pay for it, to sit down with, in this case, them, SHC, it can be somebody else, and I put it in front of you the outline, and this is a mini statement of work. And what we would ask them is for a quote, and that can be done tomorrow in an email. Hey, we would like you to review the permit application. We would like to also review the CUP application because they are related. It says revisited, by the way. Please review the updated relevant documentation from the last engagement. Review the adherence to the permit conditions that we've done over the last couple of years. We've done permit conditions that frankly, as a board, I don't know if they've been adhered to or not. Did you receive the March report in 21 that was gonna give you the outline of what to do in the northern perimeter? I don't know if it has been done or not. Update the timeline and provide recommendations, mitigation strategies, overall consultative expertise for the permitting process, and help draft the permit. That's a statement of work. We can flush it out a little bit more. We can tell them to put a quote surrounding it. I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be, just guessing, $4,000. And you can consider, yep, that's what I wanna do or not do. And then we've got the ability to engage an expert that may or may not engage the legal or attorney as well, in order to then give you whatever you can vote on.
What you got in here is what we would be asking SHC to do in the next month.
That's basically it.
You know, that'd be why we would send it to them, to do what Eduardo is suggesting here. Along with our attorney, give him the same list and let the two of them look at it, and hopefully, the holidays screw things up here coming up, but, you know, hopefully we could get that done by our January meeting.
Yeah, Patty, can I see that map again? The one that's on,
So one thing I will say, I'm not sure what this says, that you
Oh.
have written up there. If I could take-
You want a copy of it?
That'd be fabulous.
There.
I do not know about, I'm not saying you're who did it. Where is it? Is this the one? I'm talking about the conditions that we have. Is this the condition?
That's right here. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, the one, that's the thing, I typed that up.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, we already do the blasting, seismograph records and recordings. They're all done by third-party independent testing.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 14 calendar days. That's a Tom Schmidt question, to be honest with you.
That could be longer with, I mean,
I will
that's,
say
yeah.
complaints, we do that in a lot of other municipalities that we deal with. If we get complaints, we forward them to the town clerk or the town,
Yeah.
city staff, whatever it might be, if it's a city.
Yeah, my suggestions here are basically a non-cost item to you people. A little bit of time and a few electrons in an email.
These electrons are dying.
So something else we wanna know too is cause the well water situation stuff. I don't know if you know what
Oh, I
wells,
forgot to bring that.
yeah, it'd be nice to find out these wells that are across the street, if they're at the same as our test sites, if they're the same depth wells, or if they're not. It'd be nice to find if we're in the same aquifer.
Let's
with
talk
what we're
about that
testing.
separately then,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Stick around at the, don't run off, you probably won't anyway.
So on that, is that called a permit?
No, we don't have the permit right
Well, I
now.
mean, on your suggestions that
Oh,
you
my-
go through?
My suggestion would just be added to the permit.
Yeah.
If you read the permit, there's a handful of things in there that we require.
Yeah,
This would be added to that
Okay,
list.
so what is one of them the requirement of being, transparent with the blasting, records? We still
Yeah.
haven't seen anything of that.
That's what I'm asking for, that the company they hire to do their blasting does the recording, right? And they would forward them readings to us.
Okay, from when to when? How far are you gonna go back?
Well, it'd be from here forward. I mean,
Can we go back to 2020? Because my well was affected in May of 21.
Is there any reason it couldn't just be all available data?
Yeah, I know, because it
I
should
mean,
be.
it's just a bigger Excel file, who cares, whatever they got, just release it.
You know, I'm honestly gonna say, and this is more Tom's expertise than mine, you guys would need an expert to guide you on what those readings say.
Yeah,
They're
so
not
we're
for
getting an
laymen.
expert with
Well,
the
a third-
lawyer and
No.
CHS. and.
No, SHC would not be able to analyze.
No,
blast
I'm saying
results.
we're getting their expertise for other things.
No, let me tell you,
Third party would be able to
let
send it to us.
me back up the reason for asking. I've had several residents ask me, why can't we see the blasting reports? Why can't we see them? Why can't we? And they've been hesitant to release them. And Tom told me right out, he said, I'm hesitant to release them until they get in the wrong hands and who interprets them and how they read them. And, you know, it's like Patty says, who do you know? But there may be, it's to protect the township. There may be somebody else that, I don't know how to read them. I'm sure these two don't know how to read them. Patty don't know how to read them. But there might be somebody else that would look at them and say, oh no, this is totally screwed up. What you're getting here is not, you know. And I believe their third party person, the blasting company, chances of them lying to us on them documents are, I would say, far and few between. Because if they ever got caught, they'd be out of business. That's just the way laboratories and testing places generally work. I mean, you always find one that lies, but anyway. I don't know. So what do you two think?
Well, I think this raises a lot of questions we need to bring to our attorney and at SHC before the next meeting, because questions like, oh, okay. Questions on this 500-foot setback, if that goes into the lower bench, because these are both lower benches.
Right.
You know, I mean, your lower bench would start here.
The lower bench is just, it's gonna be in this red hatched area.
I understand that, but, well, I think that's why we would need a variance, and you know how those go. That anything from the road maybe 500 feet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, again, I mean,
they're both lower benches.
I'd respectfully request that you reach out to your attorney
That's
first.
what we need to do.
You know, he'd be able to guide you on the legalities of it.
I think I would, like I said on the variance before, just so the people in the room are aware, they're not making, under this application, the 2023 permit, they're not making that hole any bigger. The footprint is staying the same. What they want to do is go deeper where they've been mining. So I'm sure we could request them to file a variance request, because they're mining within 500 feet of the road, which is not allowed. But then, like I've said before, I hate to repeat myself, but we would rule on that variance request. And what the attorney has told us before, you have to have a good reason to approve a variance and a good reason to deny it. Well,
We've had this
you know, so.
discussion before here on this.
Yeah, so what would be our reason to deny it? Because we were in error for all these other years and let them mine there? You know, would that go, or would the reason be to grant it? The previous boards, the other boards, everything else has allowed them to mine that area already.
I've got a question now.
Sure.
What will the final slope look like? You've got a cross section?
They took the, yeah, the slopes are in the mining ordinance.
What are they?
Well, I don't know, I'd have to open it up.
Are you talking
So
on?
we-
I wonder if it's gonna be vertical, rock face, or?
We had them remove all the reclamation stuff off the annual permit. We had them, they actually, per our request, cut that map short to not show anything on the north property, nothing on the east property. We basically, this is just an annual permit. This isn't a 2-year outlook, 3-year outlook. This is just strictly what's gonna recommended to happen next year. And we didn't like having all the extra maps. We didn't like having all these other things attached. We just wanted it strictly to the point, short and sweet, and then not have to worry about, you know, anything just kind of coming back later. So that's what we have right now is nothing with reclamation. That'll be in the 5-year CUP when we start discussing that, when we get that on our agenda.
I gotta,
Still don't know what the final slope is. Whatever, you're within 200 feet of the road.
I got a drawing up here.
It's a
You
cliff.
can,
Okay, I don't see it.
I got one
Straight
here.
up and down.
I got one here you can look at, Tracy, if you want.
All right, I'll see it.
Okay.
That's just an idea.
And the reason we had that stuff taken out is we didn't want to be locked into it. Because we've had them kind of come back to us before and say, Well, when we applied for a permit back in 1892 and you approved it, you know, that was part of that documentation and you people approved it. Well, we didn't want any reclamation plan attached to this document, and they come back and say, well, you approved that in the fall of 2022 and, you know, and now it's 2024 and, you know, and basically when it comes to reclamation, in all honesty, our mining section in our ordinance is about 2 or 3 pages long at best, and the county's is quite extensive. And I would say the county's gonna be a lot more involved in the reclamation than we ever will be. And in fact, the county has put out a request for proposals to hire somebody to redo their mining section, their mining ordinance. So I don't know if they've hired anybody yet or not. But anyway, back to this, what do we wanna do?
Does anyone wanna speak or say anything?
I have, another thing to say about the complaints, like with the, blasting. I don't think that them getting back to you within 14 days to tell them who complained is a good idea. Because they can say whatever they want or not even call you, and then you'll never know. I think it should be coming from the person that complains that to them, and then also to let you, kind of like a carbon copy, you know, so what they get, you also get from the homeowner.
Well, we can't force the homeowner to
Well,
give us
no,
anything.
but they have that option to give that to you also. Because the reason why I'm saying this is, when my well went down 21 feet on May 17th, was it 2021?
Yeah, I think last,
One of Aggregate's employees said that I refused a new well. I did not refuse a new well. In fact, we talked at length about it with the well driller on where they were gonna put it on my land because of all the overhead wires. So you know, that's big false right there. I've got nothing from them, and it was $2,500. I don't even have a warranty on the pump because Mantilla said they think it's from Aggregate and they won't warranty the pump. I know, what have you guys heard?
Same thing.
Okay. Cause I was informed that I supposedly turned down a new well.
I'd like to talk to you later about that, because that's not what you told me when I talked to you. But I don't want to bring that up publicly.
Okay. I had concerns about it because it was in a lower aquifer, but I never turned any of that down. How could you turn it down? It's water. You have to, you have to have water. Right?
Well,
Okay,
Let's focus
let's
on-
table that till after the
Yeah,
meeting,
let's-
and you can have a conversation.
yeah.
So,
So what do I do with this?
Can I ask one question, just a clarifying question?
Sure.
So the previous taking down the first level on the north end, I thought I heard something about an ordinance change. Was there an ordinance change, or was there just discovery of the CE district between them taking down that upper bench and the lower bench? The CE district language that really requires them to be 500.
Yeah, just discovery of it wasn't
Okay, so
in the
we didn't
CEO.
change
No,
ordinance
no.
to make it 500 feet.
No.
We just kind of realized what was already there.
right.
Okay, thank you.
So, that CE district, the whole west side of the road is CE district,
Correct,
Yes,
not the east side.
correct.
So, the 500 feet from the from the western reserves, 500 feet, you folks, once upon a time, your ordinance did allow everything north of the town hall to be mined to within 200 feet of the road right away.
There was some, you had to keep reading in there. It also said it had to be 500 feet from any property not zone CE.
And that right there is, we're not showing the northern reserves that were in question with the variance, none of that is, there, so that's still,
If
that is all.
if I'm correct, that 500 feet staying away from the CE was in that past ordinance you're talking about.
I don't know that that was, but
Yeah.
I can go back and
Yeah.
look too.
I think, yeah, Attorney.
So, absolutely.
So do we need a motion to just allow the planning commission to set up an open meeting? Cause I don't feel like they're bringing a permit to them to look at. I feel like we just want a meeting with them. Would we need a motion to?
Well, we're not gonna, you wouldn't be asking for that permit till May or April, right?
Right, I don't think they have a,
When?
I'm sorry.
They asked in October.
We applied early as per.
so we got time for this kind of stuff.
For your, that was a current condition, is that we have an application in due by November,
Oh,
and
We did that cause we
would
moved
start
slow
up.
around here.
I mean, our operations can start as early as March.
You approved it last year, March 23rd, just for what it's worth. So
yeah,
that seems, if it worked last year, hopefully it will work next year. And remember, the CUP is not approved yet and we're operating, so that's 2 years into it without a CUP, and that's still holding. What I'm trying to say is that let's not try to rush the decision. I think we've got a little bit of time. I don't know how Cheryl would characterize what your action can be, but I think it can be as simple as, hey, planning commission, we approve you to seek advice, and we'll work with Cheryl and her, Pam, I'm sorry. And with Pam, the town clerk, to secure advice, and hopefully as fast as possible, so we can inform you next time, these are your options, this is what you've got in front of you, and this is what we're recommending that you put in that administrative permit conditions. I don't know if you need a motion to authorize us to seek advice. I don't know if that is necessary or not. Again, the fees associated with it are part of the due diligence of the permit application itself.
Well, what I'm looking at is a little different in that.
well, we already had them work on those permits. I mean, I don't see this as any,
2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
Well, if we go
I
with,
understand that, but it's a different world from the perspective of the residents.
It's a different permit.
It's a
It's a new permit.
different permit.
Permit
Yes.
request.
And, you know, we need some discussion with our attorney on some of these other things.
Your attorney last time suggested that you talk to them. He may do the exact same thing.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Either the attorney or them directly, or both. I guess that's what we're requesting to do. Whether you need a motion to do that is a different story.
I don't think we have to do it on motion. Well, are you guys interested in what I was thinking is?
Well, I don't
Well,
think
let's
they
keep in
want,
mind, we don't have a permit right in front, an administrative permit in front of us. We don't have it. It has to be typed up. It has to be made. Cheryl does that. Okay, so if we put these additions in there, have her redo it, and then she sends it out, and we can proofread it and send it back, whether we like it, don't like it, get it back to her. And that would have to be done, I would think, fairly quick, within a week. And then have her send it off to the attorney and send it to SHC and get their recommendations from both of them.
I could be mishearing, but I don't think that's what the planning commission wants. I think they wanna take this map and sit down and be able to ask questions and stuff and generate a permit application from that to forward on to us. I don't think they want to write one with unknown questions or advice. Unless I'm wrong,
Well,
but.
You're right. Once again, we would like to engage them and the attorney to do these things.
we would, like I said before, she would send them along with the thing to them.
That's
It-
almost like starting with the end. It's we don't come up with a draft. Remember that what we're including in this permit, I know you say Cheryl wrote it.
Yeah.
Cheryl grabbed some of the pieces from the year before which they came up with,
Right,
okay?
right.
And I don't think that we should draft our own and then go tell them out of context, is this good or bad? because they haven't looked at your resolutions, they haven't looked at the 21 permit, they haven't looked at whether or not we adhere to the permit or not, they don't have that context, they're gonna tell you, I need to get up to speed,
Well, we
and
would,
be able to give you advice.
that would be what we'd be asking them to do.
But not with a permit in front of them, you just say, get up to speed, and then give me permit options, and then they put in front of you, these are the permit options you've got. And I think that they're gonna say just what Paul said it very well, you've got the option to do a variance, do you want to or not? Doesn't sound like it makes sense, because you denied a variance against 75. You already did, now you're gonna say, are we gonna approve it now? Because.
Well, it's two different areas.
Well, yes or no, it's
Yeah.
against 75, but
Yeah.
they're gonna give you that, or they're gonna give you, you've got negotiating options that you can consider here, or you got nothing. There's a precedent, you don't have a legal ground. Put these conditions, that's it.
Well, that's what
And that is what we're recommending that you do, find out.
And the last step is how to draft a permit. Whatever, type up, not going to with them with the permit, the last step would be how to draft them to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Amy.
Did the
SHC?
did they know that property across the road was not zoned for mining?
No.
That's a
Well,
big thing.
wait a minute, they knew it wasn't zoned for mining, they
But
knew
didn't-
that, but they didn't know it wasn't in the commercial excavation overlay area.
That's a big thing. That's,
Bullet number 3, review updated relevant documentation since the last engagement with Great Cloud Island, including the variance request resolutions. Exactly, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got a really great point, they have to get up to speed in order for them to say, this is the latitude you've got, these are the options, by the way, these 3 things are changing in the, statute of it, this is what the county is doing and we're aware of it. Give us that context, which they did last time by both their expertise and digging into the history of it.
Well, I think we have a clear direction which way to go.
and that is.
Yeah,
Muddy.
That is attorney and SHC.
what's that?
Pam said on it.
I never said on it. Siri understands everything, that's good.
So currently, Patty, we're not gonna make a motion on this tonight.
You have to table it until next month, some kind of, you have to table it until next month, Pam, or sorry.
I don't know how does that work for meeting with SHC? I mean, I feel like you want them at a round table essentially to come out, review the documents.
I think we can work with them directly, without necessarily having to wait for a meeting to do that. They're going, my suggestion, sorry for the yelling.
We can hear you.
My suggestion would be that we would engage them with an outline very similar to what I've given you, run it by the attorney, see if he thinks about any other item, ask him for a quote, so this is not an open-ended piece, ask him for availability, when do you think you can get it done by, and then do an engagement. They're gonna probably work with Cheryl and with Pam, saying, give me the documentation, give me the documentation, give me the documentation. They may wanna talk to aggregate, they may wanna talk to the county, give me documentation. Okay, we reviewed it, we updated the chronology, we understand where you're at, these are the options you've got. They would probably wanna even talk to you guys, to say, hey, what are you thinking about what you wanna do with it, because you probably have some options on it. That's the step that we would be making, and then the process, and hopefully this doesn't sound like I'm complaining, but I do really encourage you to not think that this application is in front of you. This application is in front of the township. And right now, it's in front of the planning commission, not in front of you. I know that they like to bring it to you to make a decision. But it's really in front of the planning commission. The planning commission has to give you advice, and it's saying, we can't yet. If you bypass that step, you're bypassing, you're going directly to decision making. And I know that that can be advantageous, given how decisions were made historically here, that one of you or many of you would say, this is what we're gonna do. but that we respect that process in which you go, I'm not even sure, quite frankly, why it's on the agenda. Because it should not be on your agenda until we make a decision on it. And if we can't, then you can override it, but not bypass the step. So at this point, I would just say, hey, leverage us to work with expertise, to give you the options you're looking for, and then you can take action on it.
So
Fair.
let's, yes. So I'm gonna make a motion to hold the Holcim mining permit for Larson Quarry until that's, January 11th meeting at 7 PM.
Okay, so that, I'll second that, okay.
Uh,
But now, okay, finish that, but then we
The
gotta
motion's
figure out what
been made
we're
and-
actually gonna do.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any questions?
What if they can't get it done by then? The two people, the lawyer and the C people, because of the holidays and all that.
Well, that's a good question. I appreciate that, cause I was thinking about that too. But, you know, I mean, it is a month. You know, there's,
What's the hurry? Why are you hurrying this?
Well,
that was a
No,
the
there
request.
is, I mean, they just need it, when you're trying to get groups of people together with questions, month can go by after month. They just need to be able to operate. But like last year, we would have operated I mean, there's plenty of areas in here that we could operate in good faith or figure things out that aren't at question. But yeah, no, we wanna be thorough and do the due process. But we just wanna make
Do you
sure we're
think-
engaged and moving along.
Edward, we can get this done by the January meeting?
I think it's gonna be a stretch. I think that
Okay.
I think we can get it.
Then,
Just because of the holidays, because they may not have availability or they may be booked. I don't know, I haven't talked to them.
okay, I'll amend my motion to the February.
We'll have plenty of
Meeting.
runway to give you.
Okay. You okay?
I'll
with
second
the
that,
amendment?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
For the record, I was gonna say that, you know, Folsom has concerns with it being going out to February just because we need to plan operationally wise.
I understand that,
I just want that
completely,
for the record.
but, you know, like Edward said, last year was
March 23rd.
March.
But we do things before we actually start up. Just for the record, I just wanna know if there's things that are in motion before we
I,
turn the switch on and start.
yeah, I can imagine it would be.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yep,
What if we left it at the next month? And if it doesn't make it, if we don't have the information we need, then we bypass that and move it to February. Could we not?
I like that too, but I think it's gonna be really difficult to get all that done in 1 month.
You
should Especially with probably at least holidays.
an update.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they take 2 weeks off after Christmas. Go to Florida or Hawaii or whatever.
They can work remote, they can do it from Florida away.
Yeah. I just want to kind of answer Eduardo's question on the timeline. What happened last year is you guys were a little late getting their thing in, and then we goofed around a little bit. And it was getting into March, and I think, you know, it was like today, and they wanted to start busting rocks next Monday. And so we did everything we could, because we're not in the business of holding them up. We don't want to do that. We want to do it right, but we're not in the business of stopping their production either.
I completely agree with that, and that is not our intention, but
Yeah.
if I may just comment on this, when was the last time that we issued a permit on this? 21, March 23rd, right? Year 21, March 23rd, so that's the last time we did the permit. The
Yeah,
one before was in 21. And we never issued a permit before that,
There were CUPs.
but no permits. So my point being, we've been operating this mine for years with the ability to issue a permit, and we never did. And now we're really worried
Well-
about making sure that we're gonna be at a specific.
well,
time.
they got an annual permit every year in
They
some
did not.
form or
No,
another.
it was
They
a
did not.
CUP.
Well, yeah,
It was,
conditional use permit or whatever.
I think
What
up
a-
until,
You're mixing
like
words, but-
2010, it was a permit.
I mean, they've always had something. what type of permit you wanna call it is questionable, but they've always had some type of okay to chomp rocks down there.
That's,
You know,
well,
You know, you can argue all day about what it's called and it means
maybe I can be
nothing.
corrected, but once again, the report from, what's it called? The GC called out that you never issued them, so perhaps I'm wrong about
Right,
it.
we didn't issue an administrative permit,
There
we
you
gave
go.
an annual operating permit.
Yeah, they pay for it every year.
Yeah, we're not.
Alright, so,
So what are we gonna do? What's the plan of attack here? What,
Eduardo's gonna reach out and just work on the annual permit. Leave the rest for
and
expedite that.
well,
Was-
is he gonna do that or Cheryl gonna contact them
it's
or?
gonna be,
They'll get together.
Oh.
Eduardo and Cheryl will get together.
Okay, alright. You know,
and
one question for
February
Cheryl is,
meeting.
how did we get to where we were with SHC last time? I mean, do you remember how we
our
got to where?
attorney,
He sent them to us and they came to us and made a proposal.
yeah,
So basically, we'd be asking them to do the same thing you did last time for us.
yes, with the number of changes that have happened,
Yeah, right.
because those didn't happen until they were.
Pam will be leading it. Your turn.
Okay. So we're done with that for now?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we've got a amended motion on the board that was seconded for February meeting.
Well, I liked our idea of putting it in January, we can always
Yeah.
kick it down the road again.
We want updates.
I don't want anybody coming back and say, well, you can't talk about it in January because you said you're gonna talk about it in February.
Yeah.
All right, I will agree with our new clerk. We'll make it, January 9th is the update.
Okay,
Is that what it was? January 9th?
just say January meeting.
Oh, sorry, January 11th. Okay, so that's the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion been made, and seconded, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Well, that was a lot of talking, I got nothing done.
Yeah,
Okay.
5590 99th Street.
That Mr. Mole?
Oh, yeah, I don't actually own the property, it's in the name of the whole family revocable living trust.
Yeah, can you come on up to the mic? And that mic, and state your name.
Yes, I'm Tracy Norm, the resident at 99th Street South. St. Paul Park, so
Yeah,
I'm Great Cloud Avenue.
across the street down the road.
I drive it. What's your question?
Is it cleaned up?
I asked for a report back when you had the Cottage Grove
The inspector? Yeah.
inspector come and look at it. They changed inspectors and the last lady was wonderful to work with, Samantha. And she said she would give me a copy of the report she made. And said it was a real favorable report, but I never got it. It was gonna be emailed. So I gave her my wife's email address, she never got it. And then they just continued working for you, for the township. And several months went by and the township hired a new inspector who came once and looked at the property and he recommended maybe a fence on one side of the property and was going to come back with a plan. So I called him several weeks ago, asked any update on the plan or any information I could get, and he never called me back. So I'm in the dark, but I think I'm in pretty good compliance, because the township should have got a report from Cottage Grove. And I wish I could get a copy of that too.
Yeah.
Could I get a copy of that?
They're on the table.
I picked up everything on the table.
This is not the complete report, this is these are your options.
Can I see that?
I can,
I don't see it here.
You know?
I don't think we got it,
Okay.
no.
You're talking about the report from the old inspector?
No, we're talking
Oh, yeah, I'm
about.
just talking about the old-
most recent.
what?
He's talking about the old inspector.
From Cottage Grove.
Yeah, code
This is kind
code
of, no,
enforcement
this is the
isn't
new guy from
Vince
the
back.
inspect.
They ended a couple weeks ago.
Oh, they did.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Considerations.
Oh, I remember getting this email. And what, we never got back to the guy on this? Is that what the deal is?
Correct, because you need to discuss it and make a decision, and that can only be done at a town board meeting.
Okay.
I am, James, right, I'm interested in the old report from Cottage Grove too, that's the one I wanted, in addition to any new plan. I could say that I would send a copy of, ordinance number 41, and I, had people take advantage of me pretty much, like my children and their friends storing vehicles there that weren't licensed, and they all got removed. I was also advised to build a fence on the west side of my property, and I hauled in some fence material. And before I could build that, you know, they quit, and they didn't give me the report about it. The new inspector now is saying build on fence on the north end of my property, and I'm not sure where to build it, maybe both sides.
Well, here's our choices. We can come in and abate the property. That means get all the junk out of there, and then that would be on your title.
Property taxes.
You lean?
Property tax.
Yeah,
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 assessed to the
against
house.
the
but
property.
it gets assessed to the house.
Right.
We can do that. There's, I would estimate at least 20 boats, a dozen questionable, unlicensed or inoperative vehicles, numerous dumpsters for disposal, cost of storage, and legal fees. An option would be to fully screen the exterior storage, which would be cheaper removing it, but we're not gonna allow that. The zoning permit for a fence, possibly a building permit may be required. No, we're not gonna do a fence.
Why would a fence not be allowed
Is there still?
Well, you could, but everything's gotta be gone.
inside the fence?
Yeah,
Oh, well, the thing I was saying to me is pretty much you build a fence and you don't have a problem.
No.
no,
It's a residential property, you still have to meet, all the vehicles need to be titled, there's a lot of stuff that is in the ordinance. Just cause
Yeah,
it's hidden
well-
behind a fence out of sight doesn't make the problem go away.
There's been a big difference, from last May until now, so, that's why I wanted to get a copy of the report to see where I'm at. What you call junk, my grandson picked up a $500, casting for drainage from I had for a proposed, pole barn site to drain it and hauled it to the junkyard. You may call it junk, but I call it a $500 casting, it's pretty valuable.
are you talking like a cesspool or something?
No, just the drainage to drain out,
Oh.
a low area.
To whose property this time?
It would be the, bank, I believe, on my property, it would run down a slope, perhaps.
Well, if you got all the stuff out of there, you could,
What stuff are you talking about?
all this stuff in question one.
Wanna put them pictures back up again,
20
Cheryl?
boats, a dozen questionable unlicensed or unoperative vehicles.
Right there,
Oh,
and that's just part of it.
Well, snowmobile's operable, but
but that's junk.
it's a $2,000 at least snowmobile.
Well, the snowmobile you can put somewhere, but
Okay, and I have some, building materials for a future pole barn that I was, not able to get financing for.
Tracy, what is that?
I have a lot
What's
of
that top?
gardening
What's that?
supplies. I'd have to get a little closer to look at that, it's covered up with snow. I have some wood. Back when there was the 2001 scare, I had a large amount of wood piled up linearly instead of vertically. And I was burning wood in wood burning stove at that time. Still have some of that.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jane's speech, I share a driveway with him.
Yeah.
In my formal complaint that I submitted a few months ago, I too included quite a number of photos, and they are not obscured by snow.
Yeah, we've seen it, not obscured by snow, we can't even drive in there.
Well, Tracy, I don't know exactly how it works, we have to talk to our code enforcement officer and our attorney. But here's the sad part, we dealt with a guy up by the Y, up there,
I heard that.
and we got about $6,000 in attorney's fees with this guy. And his choice was clean it up, or the township goes in and cleans it up, and they assess the property, the cleanup costs. You know, you can argue till the cows come home on what's good, what's junk, what is, what isn't. But when you get so much junk, it's affecting the neighbor's property, sightlines from the neighbors and everything else. We don't have a lot of choice but to go forward with forcing you to clean it up in whatever way, shape, or form we have to. And if we have to do that,
Trying to be compliant, but I've found that I haven't been given information on how well I'm doing, and I've been
Okay,
told pretty
we'll-
much I'm doing real well,
oh,
and then, somebody
Well-
stops.
By,
We'll-
by who?
The, Samantha at Cottage Grove said, doing quite well, keep it up.
Samantha hasn't been there in at least 2 years.
No, she was there last spring.
No, that was Connor.
She replaced Connor.
No, Connor replaced her.
okay, so what if we do this? We'll get we got a new code enforcement officer evidently, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I met with her.
Okay, we'll get the report from him, another one, or we
We've
have
got
it.
the report.
We got,
Okay, we have it. Cheryl will give it to you, and you can go from there.
All right.
But we just want you aware of the fact, if you don't clean it up when we have to, you might be looking at $30,000.
I'm asking what else should I clean up? I've got garden supplies, I've got, pots.
It'll probably be in the report Cheryl gives you.
Yeah, I'd like to know more detail instead of just saying generally clean up.
Well, the guy isn't gonna go out there and dig through the piles and say, this is good, this isn't, this is good, this isn't. You know, you read the ordinance and it's piles of stuff. I'm not gonna argue with you about what's good and what's bad. I'm just telling you, if the code enforcement officer and the judge think it's junk, it's gonna be junk. And you will pay eventually to get it out of there. So the choice is yours. You either take care of it yourself or somebody else will.
That's what I've been doing, and I've been, unable to find out what the township or your inspectors think is gonna have to be better.
Okay,
Moving
Cheryl will give you that.
Yeah, I've been moving along every day, doing something.
The last report I saw from the guy, he said it looked like there was more stuff there now than there was in April.
Well, that's absolutely false.
You pretty much, when you get to a point of where it's at, you need to basically get stuff where it's down in a shed, gardening tools closed up. Nobody can have piles just laying around their yard. And an unfortunate thing would happen if we went in and cleaned it up. There might be some good valuable stuff that you want, but nobody goes out and picks through it. It just disappears. So you gotta get to a point where the stuff's tidied up, put away. You can't have piles, you know. You can have wood, you can have snowmobiles, you can have stuff, but it's gotta be tidied up. It can't just be everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think I reserve the right to have a linear pile of wood to burn.
Well,
Absolutely.
That's one of the minimal things that's in there.
A lot of it's wood. Half the stuff I got is wood.
I saw it
Yeah.
twice.
So anyway, Cheryl will get you the information. Anything, other information you want, contact the clerk, either the old clerk or the new clerk. Anything you're looking for, any documentation from the code enforcement officer, they'll give you. And
I haven't so far.
I'm telling you to ask and they will get it to you.
By the way, Paul, when you were scheduled to show up with the cottage grove inspectors, you did not make it.
I did not make it, and I apologize for that.
That's no problem.
I have something else going on.
So anyway, the ball's kind of in your court
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Yeah, I've been
It's
trying
kinda-
to-
We realize it took 40 years to haul that stuff in. It ain't gonna be gone in 2 weeks, but
A lot of it has been. Thanks for your help.
okay.
Yeah, we'll keep working on it. Okay, town hall, what's that?
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
Skip that.
That's-
It's
Okay,
getting late.
now you're gonna stay here all night if we have to.
Here's the town hall speech again.
Here it is. Here, I'll give each of you guys one of these. You can take it home and read it. Gave one to our clerk. I got an updated one, sure.
Cheryl don't.
Basically, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do on this town hall. We've been putting our head in the sand for, what, 3 years now? And we gotta come up with what we wanna do. We ain't gonna get that done tonight. I kinda thought maybe we'd have another meeting just to talk about just the town hall,
Yeah, let's do that.
you know.
Maybe aggregate, Patty,
Yes.
we're kind of talking about the town hall. Did you have anything to,
Sorry, I didn't talk about it.
okay,
Honestly, we were so focused on the admin that we.
I understand.
But I can certainly, circle back with, I'm out of the office this week, so I don't think that's February, so.
Oh, good surgery or turned out all right? Okay.
So when I get back, I'll circle, talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Could we,
I-
talk about?
We got
it?
schools close by and stuff, so we'll never be without a place.
Well,
Yeah.
The Legion, is it the Legion or the, their back room, they infiltrated?
well, just for a point of information, I did talk to the school district, and we can use any of their facilities, rooms, stuff like that, for $4.25 an hour.
Really?
Really, yeah, that's in here. And, you know, there's all kinds of things I got written on here for, I've read them, these two gotta read it.
We've read it
On
all.
what we're gonna do. You know, cause I've had comments from residents, some say build a town hall, some say don't build a town hall. One brought up a real good point to me. He said, you know, a few of the roads in the town have been rebuilt and redone and are in good shape. My road's a piece of junk. If this township gets annexed to St. Paul Park or Cottage Grove and they come in to redo my road, I'm gonna get assessed for it. But you people on Geneva and Great Cloud Trail and County Road 75 already have a good road. That ain't really fair. You're gonna build a new town hall and I might get assessed for my road? Well, good point. You know, other people said, no, you know, just fix the roads, don't do that. So that's a decision we gotta make.
Put together a really nice speech for the annual meeting. We'll talk about it then.
Well,
We heard this last
the
month.
annual meeting
and the
don't
month
do us a
before.
lot of good because Larry, Daryl, and Daryl up here have to make the decision, you know?
Well, I know that we don't have
Which
the
one's
money as a
Larry?
township to build a town hall right now, so it's not
I'm
really
Larry,
a
it's my
question.
brother Daryl and the other brother Daryl. But anyway, start looking at it because we're kind of running out of time. I mean, if we do decide to build something, you got to build it next summer, unless you want to pay for winter construction costs.
We don't have the money to build one anyway. We just
I
gotta-
agree with Dan. We don't have the money.
So we're gonna circle the $4 an hour option if it comes to that.
Yes, I agree.
That'll be up next month again.
Okay, anything else besides the town hall?
Do you want to meet sometime, or what do you want to do with that? You want to have a standalone meeting, or an after a meeting, or what? Cause every meeting, we just kick it down the road to the next meeting. Nothing
Set
gets
one up with
done.
yourself.
Or, I mean, if we wanna make the decision right now, we are not gonna build something, then there's no hurry. Like Dan said, I don't think we can afford to build anything, and I've had enough residents tell me that we're nuts if we do.
Any other questions, comments?
You need an
Other?
answer from Holcim before you meet. Once you know, then we should meet.
We've already asked them twice.
They were gonna,
Yeah.
there was some stuff
Yeah.
going on. Like,
Can
they'll tell you yes or no.
Patty,
Yeah.
can we talk, Patty, can we talk about it at the January meeting? We'll have your permit come out.
Maybe.
Oh. But anyway, read my whole list of things here, and
Yep,
obviously, we don't wanna do anything again, so just kick it down the road another month.
yes. Kick it down the road. All right,
All right, there went that.
new business, resolution. Resolution 2022-11, a resolution to codify ordinance 49 zoning.
I'll make a motion to approve codifying ordinance 49.
I'll second that. It's in here somewhere.
Motion's been made and seconded to codify the ordinance 49. Any questions?
Anybody wanna know what that is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Ordinance 49 was our zoning ordinance, and it was originally like ordinance 22, then 32, then it finally ended up being 49. Well, then it got changed, it got amended, but they still left it as ordinance 49, the board. Well, then it got changed again, it got left as ordinance 49. Well, when we went back,
49.0, 49.1.
well, no, we just did that about 2 months ago,
Well,
because it was confusing. So we went back when we were looking at aggregate stuff, actually. Well, what was a zoning ordinance in such and such a year? You couldn't tell them apart because they're all labeled the same. So actually, all we did was number them now. 49 was 1 year, 49.1 was the next amended one, 49-2 is the next amended one, on down the line. Didn't change anything in the ordinances, just put a number on them for the years that it matched.
So this says we do not, what's this last, what's that mean?
I think we gotta put a yes in there or something, or sign it, probably initial it.
Oh,
Have to ask Cheryl.
okay.
No, Paul will stamp it. I
Okay.
just need you guys to vote on it.
Oh, okay.
To what?
Vote.
Oh, okay. Okay, so,
We had a motion and a second.
motion and second has been made. All in favor, say aye.
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 Let me interject. Cheryl, how about the other ordinance, the pay ordinance? We were gonna do that at the same time. Where we changed the clerk's pay, we gotta codify that too.
Right, I said I'll do it. I put it on the agenda for next month's meeting. I'll work with Pam
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
to do it then.
okay.
Meeting dates for 2023, is that something we have?
Right here.
You got another one?
Nope.
You got one?
Yeah.
Oh, how come I didn't have one? Okay,
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the meeting dates for 2023 given to us by the clerk.
I'll second that.
is that,
Anybody want us to read them all? Okay,
motion's been made and seconded to
accept the meeting dates.
accept the meeting dates for 2023. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 2012 designating precinct.
Polling location. I'll make a motion to accept the Great Cloud Town Hall, what's it say here? Oh, Great Cloud Island Town Hall, 9910 Great Cloud Island Drive is the designated polling location, at least for one more year.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded for one more year to, use the Great Cloud Island Town Hall as a polling place.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Records destruction report, we saw that on
She emailed that
Yep.
to us.
she emailed that to us, I'm fine with it.
Now I'll make a motion to approve the records destruction report submitted by the clerk.
I'll second it. Motion been made and seconded to approve the records destruction report submitted by the clerk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Election results and oaths of office.
I've got that. Give me just 1 second. So in the November general election, Paul Schonecker was elected to Town Supervisor Seat A for another 4-year term. Paul received 120 votes. And Pam Dupree was elected to Town Clerk for a 4-year term. Pam received 124 votes. There was a 7-day challenge period, and there were no challenges received. And I am going to swear them in this evening. They're going to take their oath of office.
Yeah.
Repeat after me. I, Paul Schonecker, do solemnly swear
I, Paul Schonecker, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully,
and faithfully
for and on behalf of
the citizens of Great Cloud Island Township,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Town Board of Supervisors
as a member
of the Town of Great Cloud Island
in the County of Washington
in the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota to the best of my judgment and ability.
I so swear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doing it one more time.
I, Pam Dupree,
I, Pam Dupree,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully,
for and on behalf of
the citizens of Great Cloud Island Township,
the citizens of Great Cloud Island Township,
discharge the duties as town clerk
discharge the duties as town clerk
of the town of Great Cloud Island
of the town of Great Cloud Island,
in the county of Washington
county of Washington,
and the state of Minnesota,
the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
I so swear.
I so swear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, you're up. Holcim 5-year CUP application to Washington County.
All right, I honestly didn't know that was gonna be on, and I had informed sorry, that we weren't gonna discuss that tonight.
We weren't?
No,
Oh, okay,
so I had sent you an email, yeah.
okay,
And
it's,
I think you kind of already made.
Well, because it was given to us by the county,
Which is, I've never known them to do that before.
yeah, so I just put it on the
Usually, it's
agenda.
all- in the past, it's always been, we provide it to you. And
Okay.
They've got a new planner in these,
Uh,
Okay,
Um,
so you're planning to present next month?
well, yeah, and with your talking to SHC.
Right,
Eduardo had talked about having them look at
yes,
that as well, so
okay,
that kind of makes sense.
yeah.
all right, so scratch it off the list. And the last order of business is review fee schedule.
These numbers that are on here, are these existing, or is that what you wanna go to?
These are existing.
Why don't I have-
Can we put this on for like next month and think about it a little bit? Cause I think some of those should be adjusted, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
What do other people charge?
that's why we could do a little bit of research. I don't think we need to change it today.
I would agree.
And then also because
You keep
when
that
we
one.
had Cottage Grove doing the building inspections, you know, they used their fee schedule for driveways. Well, we don't do permits for driveways, but, pools, you know, it's, $31 for a hot tub, it's $51 for an above-ground pool, and $92.50. We don't have anything like that.
But you guys, this isn't a big like revenue generator. You just want people getting permits so things are done right and inspected, and
Yeah,
I wouldn't look at this as a way to
I would agree with
help
you.
with us hit our budget.
I don't think we should change any of it.
I mean, rounding up the dog to $10 might be nice.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh,
That's just my 2 cents.
yeah, right.
Well, what if you have 2 dogs, you get a little
Well,
better
we
deal?
are missing dangerous dog registration. We have an ordinance on that.
That price is in there on that ordinance.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No.
Oh, I
No.
thought it was, huh?
Okay, good catch, good catch. Oh, no, it's there. Well, we don't have a price.
I
Yeah,
thought it was in that
it's
thing
on the
that we
list.
got though.
No, I had, no, mm-mm. But what do we do about, like I'm saying, Cottage Grove has, you know, pages of their fees, which they have been using, you know, permit fees, like a heating system, $41.50. Radon mitigation, $41.50.
Well, let's
We
run
don't-
that, let's run that by our
Minspec?
MinSpec.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we don't have anything like
Yeah.
this. Okay,
Well, we don't have it because we don't do that work. You know, we don't,
But now that it's not, now that we're hiring MinSpec,
yeah.
MinSpec doesn't collect like Cottage Grove would have. So now it'd be,
What, they gonna charge us or what?
no, we could either, choose to.
Well, we still got the $25 application
Yeah.
yes.
fee.
And
But
then from
Minspec
the,
will charge them directly, won't they, the homeowner?
no,
No.
Well,
They-
they're gonna bill us and we'll bill them, the homeowner.
we will collect from the homeowner. And then we will pay Minspec,
So Minspec will send us the bill, we'll collect from the homeowner and pay them.
right,
Okay,
yeah. They don't want to handle money.
okay.
So you're
So you wanna
saying,
put a line item in here to address that or not? Or is that right in our building permit that they'll pay inspection fees?
it's in our contract that they'll,
I mean, when the homeowner comes in to get, say I come in to get a building permit,
oh,
where does it say how much I'm gonna get charged? Other than the $25 for the building
It
permit.
doesn't, I don't think.
yeah, we don't have anything like that. That's what I'm saying.
And before Cottage Grove, it was the same way. We collect from the resident. That's
Okay,
what I
so
remember.
I will ask Minspec if they have a fee schedule for individual items.
Or we could just put a line item in, something to the effect about whatever we get charged from Minspec will be billed to the homeowner for the fee, instead of trying to incorporate that whole thing into our fee schedule, just somehow
Oh, no.
reference
Right.
reference
Right.
Minspec.
Right. I'll ask them if they have something like this,
Okay.
Yeah.
just to verify, yes. And then Pam and I are gonna have to come up with, I mentioned that already, new building permit application.
Nancy, $1 an hour per clerk for data practices? I didn't think we could charge for that.
The school district charged us for that. Who knows, we'd have to look. We should look, we
Because
should,
when we
we should
took
do a little
that,
digging now and then just
when
come
we
back
took
to
that
this.
supervisor training that you had us take, they had it in there that, if I remember right, that townships could not, within the metro area, could not charge for the time. They could charge for the paper and stuff like that. If they went through 300 pages of paper, they could get so much for paper. But the actual data practices time was not billable.
I'll check with Matt on that.
Yeah. That sound right, Gordy? You ever heard of that?
It's in the.
Because the guy made reference to it, he
Township
said
rules.
it really became a burden on a lot of cities where they had to actually, a big city had to hire a full-time person to comply with data practices requests. And they didn't get reimbursed for it.
What it is, I know if you go to St. Paul Park, you want a copy of the report, it's like $5 or whatever the minimal processing cost is for the material.
Mhm.
But if you go in there and ask them, I want a list of all the properties in the city that have 2 driveways.
Mhm.
Now, that's gonna take a lot of hours, and I think that it can be negotiated, you can
Oh,
charge for that.
okay.
It's more than just copy of the report. and give
Okay.
it to them.
Have to ask Matt.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Gordy, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to bring up that I noticed during last winter and this first snow we had in November, your snowplow guy is dousing the roads with salt.
I agree.
Way too much. It's wasting a lot of money and it's ruining the cars. And I know I talked to St. Paul Park and they've got a meter on their truck and the directors can control it from his phone practically, so many pounds per lane mile. And so they're regulating it real close and they're cutting back substantially. And even though not all the trucks have it, the trucks that don't have it, talk to the drivers who do and they can kind of compare and put down about the same amount of salt, but they're trying to hold it down to what's necessary and not overkill. And so your guy's been really overkilling. So somebody, whoever's in charge of him needs to,
I'll call him.
yeah, have a visit.
Yeah, I know last spring, there was that, one of the last snowstorms, wasn't even a snowstorm, it was, there was salt in places this deep on Geneva.
Burned up stockpile.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
get paid
yeah.
by the yard he
Yeah.
spreads or what.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We get charged by the salt by the ton.
Anything else?
Well, there you go. He's
Yeah.
putting down lots so he can
Yeah.
build more.
Anything else? We're going on 2 hours here.
If I want, you guys to monitor my well, does that have to be a motion carried voted thing?
We don't have a way to
We
monitor
don't
it.
have any way to monitor it.
Well, what would you want monitored?
How much water is in there?
Question, you wanna talk about this now, or should I talk about?
No,
Well,
can you talk about her,
well, maybe other people are interested in this too.
with her, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they might be. When I had a new pump put in, the well guy had to, when he put the pump in, take a reading of the water level.
I've got that.
Oh, you got that, okay.
Yeah, but, it went down 21 feet overnight one night, and that's why the pump went out. So I've got 6 feet left in the bottom of that well, that's all I've got.
How do you know it went 21 overnight?
Because it was working the day before, get up, and it worked for a little bit, and then it just shut off. And the well guy says, yep, that's when you lost all the water in there, is at that point that burnt it up.
It's hard to believe it went down 21 overnight. I understand the low water level in the well, but not 21 feet
It
overnight.
was 20, we measured it. we measured how far down it was from the old pump, the
Okay.
water. It was 21 feet lower than the pump was.
That's from when it was originally installed.
And once the water goes
Oh,
below the pump, it burns out. So if it goes
how
down,
old was the old pump? I mean, what year, any idea?
I don't know. But there was no water, there was no water, it burned up.
Are you saying you had to drop your pump? You ran out of water, it burned up, you had to drop the pump 21 feet.
Yeah, to get water.
Oh, you dropped the pump 21 feet.
Yeah,
That's different than the water level going down 21 feet.
no, that's we're the same thing, really.
Same thing.
No, because the pump is set at a different level than the water.
Because here's an example, this well that's right out here, there's one right outside the thing here, and I go with them guys monthly, and Adams did it before. And that's dropped since about, I was supposed to bring that with, since about 91. I wanna say that level in that well went down about 15 feet, something like that. That's the one right here. And the one down past your driveway, that went down a little too, but not near as much.
But that 15 feet too, wasn't there a lot like years ago, and then all of a sudden it's like stabled out?
Yeah, it's been the same for, I want to, probably 15 years, 20.
Well, what she's saying is she had water on Monday, okay?
And
then they pulled the pump, they knew where it was set, what depth. They
Yeah.
pulled it, it was burnt up.
Yeah.
And then they said, we have to drop it 21 more feet to hit water.
Yep.
So on Monday, they had water at 21, that's what she said. Does that make sense?
Well,
Yeah, but did they drop it way deep in the water? There's a lot of
I've only
variables
got
that can
6
go into
feet
that.
left.
Yeah. We're gonna look into the well stuff, cause we wanna find out what aquifers tie together and all that stuff, so we're gonna do some stuff on that.
that well, do you know?
My well was 141 feet.
Wow.
oh, I gotta write that down.
Wow. Where's the pump set right now?
Right now, it's in the last 6 foot. He couldn't tell me exactly where in that 6 foot it was set, but it's in the, I've only got 6 feet left.
And you don't have a warranty on it.
And I have no warranty because they said they thought aggregate blasting did it. So they won't warranty it. That's $2,500.
So your well's 141 feet deep. Okay.
That's what we figured out.
So you're saying the pump is at 135 feet?
It'd have to be a little bit more than that because it'd have to be in the water.
Yeah, it has to be a lot of
Yes.
water, right? To sit above that, right?
Yeah, that's why they.
I don't know.
That's why they're not.
This-
in
The
warranty.
well driller does a report, so you can get the depth
Yeah.
and all that stuff from them.
Yeah, and I've got it all written down right here.
I think this one out here is about 120 feet down to water.
No, the water, the pool level is at 687 and the water is about there in the well.
I don't think on this one it is,
Okay.
because of the dewatering.
Well,
It's-
that might be the level
yeah.
you're dewatering with, but yeah.
I tried to get, but they never got them from them guys. I wanted to know what the elevation of the well casings were. Because when we measure them, we go from the top of the well casing down to the water.
Right.
And I wanted to get the actual elevation of the well casings and compare them.
Part that sticks above the ground.
Well, no, to compare them to the river level.
Oh,
It's almost like when the river comes up 2 feet, they come up 2 feet. River goes down 2 feet, they go down 2 feet. I think they're all at river level, except this one isn't. This one's below river level. Which stands to reason because they're dewatering.
Are we done?
Well, I kinda like talking.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?